Turtle Logic and the University of Life. Chapter 2, Part 2, The Map. The last point I want to make about these two stages has to do with how long they last. The first, romantic love, is really short. The last, vintage love, is quite durable. Romantic love never lasts very long. A couple of years at most. Many forces make this happen. One of the primary forces has to do with the chemical PEA that I mentioned earlier. The PEA makes new couples feel so good at first, but does not last. It seems to be a throwback to the mating drive in humans, a drive derived in your earliest development of your species, where you needed motivation to seek out a mate and be with them long enough to have offspring and not eat them. After a while, if you humans do not get pregnant, the effects of PEA stop. For many of the human couples I have witnessed, this is the first catastrophic event in your togetherness as humans. She doesn't love me anymore really means her body is no longer secreting PEA. Right on schedule, time to move on to the next reason for being together beyond lust. You see, romantic love has a bigger reason for ending. Mostly it is based on dreams and delusions and lack of data. You can't live with someone and remain blind forever. Data will start to appear. Differences will surface, and the lack of the skills for handling these differences will surface as well. The dream is over. Knowledge is terminal, and you can't go back to being stupid. Alfred dropped his head a little, then raised his eyebrow and continued to speak to me. On the other hand, vintage love is based on tons of data. There is very little about your partner that you don't know. Not only do you know a lot more, but at this time you have also learned all the skills for dealing with these differences. The drug of love, endorphins, that you experience as a human is a very normal, reliable drug, and so vintage love tends to last a very long time. So, there you have it, Alfred shrugged. Romantic love never lasts, vintage love endures. The wind began to howl, and a distant chill rose in the air as Alfred looked at me once more. We had better keep moving if we are going to make the 3 doors by sunset. If we don't, it will be cold and uncomfortable night out here on the other side. The 3 doors, I asked, what are those? The 3 doors are your doors of choices. You will need to make your choice on which one you will proceed through if your journey is to continue. The turtle picked up the map and folding it in one hand, and the turtle then picked up the map and holding it in one hand started to walk forward. Our conversation will continue, but we must keep moving. The day waits for no man or turtle, Alfred declared, as a white mist filled the air from his evaporating breath. Now we need to cover what happens after the romantic period ends. What are your choices then? What do you humans tend to do once this romantic stuff starts to turn? It's right here in the map, you see, as he pointed with his short, stubby fingers at the map held out before us. And there it was, posted in quite clear in the middle of the map, taking up quite a lot of space, the words, power struggle. Alfred looked at me, tightened his lips, little lips, mind you, but he tightened them just the same, and he continued. For many of the reasons I have talked about here, the romantic period collapses in 100% of all human relationships. So don't think you're alone, or somehow not as fortunate as all those wonderful lovers you see in your world. Believe me when I say romantic love collapses in 100% of them. It must, you see, because it is based on a lack of knowledge of your partner, and you cannot stay ignorant forever. So what happens then? What happens when you get to that inevitable point in your relationship where this happens? I call this period the power struggle, and this is an uncomfortable and downright painful place to be. We walked on. The day was full of low dark clouds that moved quickly across the cool sky. The sun was out there somewhere, but I couldn't see it, hidden perhaps behind the tall mountains that stood before us on the trail. So, what is this thing, the power struggle, I thought to myself. It seemed rather obvious to me, considering the personal pain I had been experiencing in my own personal relationships in my life. But what was the turtle really talking about? Alfred, the power struggle, can you tell me more about it? I finally had to shout out. Okay, the turtle replied, and he went on. The power struggle is this strange phenomenon that human couples engage in once the romantic period inevitably comes to an end. It is a period, and it can be a very long period, where couples actively or passively seem to hurt each other. If you look closely at their motivations, ironically, the intent of their painful behavior is to actually recapture love. To me, the pattern seems like the normal infant behavior I see in human babies, that if I scream loud enough, you will feed me. In the adult form of the power struggle, it's if I cause you pain enough, you will love me. Remember, we're dealing with the inert desire of every human of getting back to the biological dream they knew in childhood. That's the whole point behind the human relationship to begin with. And as the power struggle rears its ugly head, it starts to become clear to those involved that the biological dream is getting further away, not closer. So humans revert to skills used when they were very young. In a very different way, of course, but the idea that we get what we need when we scream was a skill first learned as a very young, small baby. It's one that was learned in the traditional family, and it is one that is used in the power struggle as well. Alfred looked a little more serious now while he continued to explain these aspects of the power struggle. He went on, abusive relationships are frightening experiences of this. Violent periods frighten the couples back into temporary dumb-as-a-post romantic behaviors behind which lurks dissatisfaction and more violence. You know, I'm just a turtle. I'm just trying to get you on your way to your biological dream. I'm not so interested in what happens in abusive relationships. Many very smart humans have written about it in detail. Just note that as the promise of obtaining the biological dream fades, problems rise higher and higher through the power struggle. People, good people who love each other, mind you, are pushed to the inevitable choice of what to do next. What to do in the face of the realization that they are going nowhere, that they are trapped in an unfulfilled expectations with a partner they do not know. Wow, I thought to myself, this is starting to sound kind of depressing. All the great promise after seeing the ultimate joy and warmth of the biological dream. Am I destined to get caught up in this power struggle thing? There's got to be a way out, I said out loud. Where do we go from here? Well, Alfred said to me, let's take a look at the map. So he held it up before me once again. Okay, he explained with a smile, this way. Alfred had his bearings straight, and it seemed that he turned down the path and was whisking me along. This way, he explained. After a while, I don't know exactly how much of a while, but after a while we came to a steep hillside. The path led up to a nearly vertical incline that with twisted branches and crumbling rock. It was steep, too steep to climb, and it didn't seem that we could go much further. The twisted trees became thicker, and the encroaching brushes closed in as the light of the day became increasingly dim. Then we came to them, the 3 doors. Now, these were large, heavy, massive doors that were framed right into the rock on the side of the mountain. They rose high above my head as I stood there in admiration of their sturdy construction, carved as they were, with elegant patterns fitted with massive hinges and sparkling gold and silver. Dark windows sat high on the upper frames, and green-leafed vines grew in and out of the deep carved crevices of the solid wood panels that adorned them. Here we are, Alfred said. Here we are at last. So these are the 3 doors? Yes, Alfred replied. These are the 3 doors on the map of relationship. I call them door number 1, door number 2, and door number 3. These are the 3 doors one will come across on their path to the biological dream. They are the 3 doors that you will inevitably come to every time you enter into a meaningful romantic relationship with another. There are only 3, and these are them. As we stood there, gazing at the doors, a fright came over me. It was an emotional reaction. I felt uncomfortable, anxious. I could feel guilt, passion, anger, and resentment all rolled into one annoying pain that drifted through my body. Then, without warning, appeared the fox again. It was Bill Kaywood, looking as if he had just been dragged in from the rain, crouching, hiding his weathered face from the strong wind that blinded all of us. Are you on your way home, Bill? The turtle shouted above the wind. The only home I know, he replied to the turtle. The fox then looked over at me. He showed me a small smile and then opened his eyes up rather wide. Good luck with this one, the fox said. He then darted past me and through the door marked as number 1. It opened wide and then slammed shut with a crashing bang like a snapping of a metal trap on a possum's foot. Alfred looked at me and grinned a bit and shook his head. The scattered leaves and other small debris blew in a swirling motion before us as a chilly vortex swooned, created by the steep canyon and quick close of the massive doors marked number 2. Bill was gone. Alfred then pointed with one hand raised to the third of the 3 doors to the far right. I must tell you about the third of these 3 doors. It is called divorce. As I looked closer at the 3rd door, I could see a large D engraved on its front. We will focus on divorce first because this solution seems to be so popular for so many of you married couples. At the present time, about 50% of all first married couples and a large number of live-in couples choose this door. So many of you have chosen to just call it quits and move back out into the world only to re-enter the redundant mating cycle that got you to that point in the first place. Turtles don't do it this way, but you're not a turtle. For the humans that choose door number 3, it seems that if you can't recapture romantic love, at least you can get away from the pain. And what happens to you when you go through door number 3? Well, after a while, be it a long time or a short time, or whatever time it takes of wandering and wondering, most of you remarry or relive in again. You see, my friend, yours is a remarrying culture. Once leaving the pain of a first marriage or long-time relationship, humans will just start another relationship via the familiar ritual of putting themselves in public, meeting someone and falling in love all over again. Whatever got you to that first bonding is still present, plus some experience of being married. With your expectations from the first relationship, you are much more cautious and slide through the romantic period even quicker, discovering the unknown about your new partner even faster than the first, leaving the PEA behind and plunging into the pain of the power struggle that much faster. You see, the turtle continued, this is familiar territory to the human experience. You humans are very good at getting back out on the field again and starting the game all over. It's like going back to the starting line in a race. The finish line, which you and me both know by now is the biological dream realized through vintage love, is much further away than it ever was inside that last relationship you threw away. You are a lot closer, even with all the pain of the power struggle, because inevitably you will start the race all over again, and up a ways from the start, you will inevitably run smack into the power struggle once again. Should have just stayed there in the first place and worked it out, right? Maybe, but most humans don't know that simple fact. The fact that you will always run back into the power struggle. And so you humans go at it once more and arrive again at door number 1, door number 2, and door number 3, right where you are now. The only difference is that you had already gone through door number 3. You know what that's all about now. And number 3, the divorce door, looks very familiar. You may still even have the card of a good divorce lawyer in your wallet or purse. So it's not surprising that the divorce rate for second marriages is quite high, over 70%. Yeah, door number 3 is a very easy door to go through. Isn't that amazing? As the turtle stood there, explaining all this to me, I started to realize how I'd been there before myself. I'd done all this stuff. I'd wandered about my life and had headed into those doors more than once. Tell me more, I said to the turtle. Tell me more about this divorce door. Okay, Alfred said. You see, many human couples end their first relationships with their hopes still in place. It seems you are a very resilient species. You pop right back up and go at it again because deep inside the recesses of your spiritual being always sits the promise of the biological dream. It is always there, pushing you on to achieve its grace. Somewhere, somehow, you believe deep in your heart that your biological dream is alive. It's right around the next corner. It lives right in front of you, encapsulated in the facial gestures or spoken words of a lover you have yet to meet. So you go out again, wandering and wandering till you arrive at the dance of partnering once more. Along the way, a few of you humans drop out and live alone. Some others decide to switch sexes and try partners of the same gender, which makes no difference here at all. But the vast majority of you go back to the drawing board, back to the start of the race, and rev up your motors, polish off the dust, and put the whole process in motion once again. But no matter where or how you start out again, you will inevitably do the same things. You will fall in love, slide through the romantic period, and find yourselves back in the power struggle once more. But something very interesting starts to happen. After the third attempt at door number 3, the divorce door, that door becomes less interesting. The divorce rate among humans goes way down on third marriages. When researchers factor out the issue of age, it would seem that people who have divorced twice would divorce even faster the third time. But the divorce rate is now in the order of 25%. Why? Well, to make a long story short, these human couples have grown up a little. Here's the pattern. In marriage number 1, you marry a turkey. It took you some time to recognize it, but this partner was really a turkey, so you divorced them. It was hard, but you did it. In marriage number 2, you amazingly married another turkey. Damn, recognized it quicker and divorced this one much easier and faster. But here you are in the middle of marriage number 3, and you seem to have married another turkey. Sure, you can divorce him, but you will probably just go find another. So you start to ask yourself, why the heck am I marrying turkeys? By the way, I personally have no problem with turkeys, Alfred said with a smile. It's just that as a turtle, I feel turkeys make a good example for you here, seeing that you are a human, and you humans have made a lot of fun over the years at the expense of turkeys. Alfred laughed and continued to make his point. I call this turning the marriage. This is the point when the individual human begins looking at themselves as the source of their own troubles rather than blaming it on other humans. It is a movement towards adult responsibility and away from childlike innocence and passivity. This is what I like to refer to as growing up. Growing up, you see, is a big part of obtaining the biological dream. It all started to make a lot of sense to me at this point, but if not divorce, then what? I see this door number 3 is so popular, but what about all these other doors? What happens to us if we do as Alfred is suggesting here and stick it out through the power struggle? Where are we at that point? So if I don't go through door number 3, then what? I asked. Well, Alfred looked at me. Remember the statistics. 50% of first marriages do not divorce. 20% of second marriages do not divorce. Almost 80% of third marriages do not divorce. What happens to the ones who just stay? Well, where are they in all of this? Well, that's even more interesting. Many people tend to celebrate a low divorce rate, but is that really wise? Of the non-divorcees, we learned that only about 5% make it to vintage love and have a chance of full realization of their biological dream. That's only 5%. And remember, that is where most everyone who marries wants to be. That means that out of all those who stay together, about 95% choose door number 2. Bill Kaywood has chosen door number 2. You saw how easy he ran through it and how he just snapped him up. Bill, like so many others, lived behind door number 2. I have tried with Bill to show him a way out of door number 2, but he won't go. He feels safe behind that door. He has learned how to survive there, and so there he will stay until the pain of being there gets too great, which I'm afraid may never come. You and I will talk much more about door number 2 in a moment because it is important to the integrity of this journey that you understand what is there and why the biological dream is so important to your quest to avoid it. And as frightening as this quest might become, you need to see all of it in order to navigate the darkness that fills the world behind it. But first, let's look at the bigger picture. Before we go any further, let's revisit the biological dream once again, because everything that is held with such promise in romantic love is based in the hidden promise of the biological dream. And what a warm heavenly notion that we will someday find our very special community and live in it happily ever after. What's that all about, you may ask yourself? You see, before you humans are born, your DNA contains specific instructions about how your bodies and brains will be formed. In particular, your brain structure is very interesting. It is designed to develop and live in a particular environment. Remember, it is as though you are born with an appointment for a particular kind of community. This is the biological dream, and it is a very powerful part of your grandest and deepest desires. It is one that cannot be ignored and must be understood. Now let's look at the 5 basic promises of the biological dream once again. Remember these fantastic warm colors that floated inside your biological dream we visited earlier. You could feel the warmth. You could feel the understanding and safety, the purpose. I'd like to cover these conditions of the biological dream once more. Now, the biological dream is working all the time. Master its aspects and you will master the conditions of your life. First, and most importantly, I have stated we have the condition of safety. This is the primary basic need for the human brain, and it lives at the base of your human skull. This primary need is very similar to how I operate as a turtle. I refer to this portion of your human brain as your reptilian brain. I'll cover exactly what it is in more detail later. In fact, you will meet the little creature very soon. But for now, just understand that he exists, that he is very active, and that he controls your need for safety. As you may remember, the human brain is designed for safety. It's not an optional thing you can maybe have or maybe not have. As a human, you expect and seek safety in your life. You look for it in your families, in your friends, and in your lovers. Most importantly, your lovers. That's why safety was the first and largest of all the layers in the biological dream. It is the one that all the others are built on. Without safety, the biological dream does not exist. Now, second, once safety is secure, you look for reliable membership. Now, this is the part where, as a human, you need other people. It is the next most important condition in the biological dream. It lives in the middle of your brain. Evolutionary, it is the second major structure for you. While it has many functions, one is very critical here. Mammals, and you are a mammal, are herd animals. You guys like to live in packs. You need to be in communities of your own kind to survive. Separation from your community will trigger fear in you, and this can be a very big fear. It's as big a fear as death, and according to your reptilian brain, it is death. This fear is very powerful and thus triggers the lower level reptilian brain survival drive. Now, the impulse for staying together, coming together, for acting and forming secure attachments and bonds comes from this part of the brain. This impulse is hardwired. Again, it is not optional. It comes as standard equipment in all humans. No wonder your kind tends to join up so much. Your brains are not designed to live alone, so you seek out reliable communities. Once you feel you have found a reliable community, your lizard brain relaxes, and so do you. Alfred was quite passionate about this stuff. I could feel it was very important to him that I understand these conditions, these concepts. I think I did, so I sat back and listened as the turtle looked into my eyes. Not to worry, he said. All of this will come as you and me proceed through the doors. He then continued explaining in detail more about these aspects of the biological dream. Next, looking at the structure of the biological dream, we have diversity, the third aspect. This is the upper part of your human brain. It controls structures. It is so complex and so variable that the differences between ways of seeing your world become a major issue, especially for a small child. You see, they sense that everyone sees everything differently. This awareness can be a source of fear for them. Thus, human children, and only human children, do this. Need and seek comfort for their sense of being different from all others. This situation leads to seeking safe, reliable memberships where your differences are accepted. Now, the fourth level, looking way up at the top part of the biological dream, is that of autonomy. Again, the upper part of your human brain. This mediates between the world of experiences and the worlds of actions. Unlike other creatures, humans do not react. You are not like the cow or the bear or the snake or the bird or the turtle for that matter. Humans are different. They seem to observe their world, process their observations, and choose their actions. Snakes, bears, and turtles just react. But it seems that human actions are determined within the individual and are not externally determined. In other words, you humans never do what you are told. You do what you choose to do when you are told. You are not designed for obedience. You are naturally self-determining, and this leads you to seek a community that encourages your self-choosing. This also is hardwired into your makeup. And it is there before you are even born. Finally, way up at the top, we had purpose. Now, this resides way up at the top of the other conditions. This is the one you saw bouncing in and out of view as you strain to look up through all the levels of the biological dream. This is a bit more difficult to explain, partly because it leads into the spiritual. I like to put it two ways. Every human has potential, and you all seek self-actualization and meaning. You see, all humans are born geniuses at something. I hate to admit it, being a turtle and all, but you humans are very special. You possess possibilities that none of us other creatures possess. This possibility is carried in your quest for purpose. It is really quite wonderful. You see, no two of you are identical, or do you carry identical genius. When you act out your genius, two things happen. First, as I stated before, you feel an abiding sense of purpose or meaning. Second, you become very productive towards your community. This potential, this purpose, is your reason for being alive, and it takes a supportive community to help you grow these seeds of genius to maturity. The drive towards this genius leads you to seek a community that cares about nurturing your wholeness and which needs your gifts. This is your overriding quest for a purposeful life. It's a dream you all pray you can someday obtain. This situation is hardwired as well. It is built into all of you humans, and it is unique only to humans. Now, I could tell Alfred had a lot of respect for humans. He liked the fact that we were designed to seek out our purpose. I could tell he likes this thing called purpose. It was, after all, at the top of the biological dream structure. It was also, as per the turtle, the hardest to obtain and required the help of all the other aspects of the biological dream. So you see, Alfred continued, deeply buried in the structures of your human brain, long before you learned anything, were these needs for safety, reliable membership, diversity, autonomy, and purpose. Like I said before, as a human, you do not have to be taught to have these needs any more than you need to be taught to eat and breathe. And the cool thing is, when you fall in love, the promise of all of this being fulfilled becomes a possibility. And you know it. You can feel it inside. That is why romantic love is so very powerful. Still, the promise of the biological dream is just that, a dream. And as we have already seen on this journey, your traditional human family did not have the skills to facilitate the realization of this dream. So, as you aspire towards it, you leave your traditional family and you go out looking. The dream is very much alive, you see. It is alive in the possibilities of these relationships, all these new relationships. As humans, you find familiar faces in these new partners and grab on, ready and eager to embark on the fulfillment of the biological dream. Oh, how wonderful life will be with your new partner, with a new love. But as you grow and learn about your partners, you discover that they may not be the saviors that you envisioned them to be. You find that they too are mere mortals. But you picked them for some reason, you see. They looked familiar to you. They felt like family. So now, where do you go? Throw them out and start all over? Keep them and endure the misery of an unfulfilled promise? Or take charge and go out and get the skills needed to actually make it all happen? Yes, there is a way there. It's right through door number 1. The quest for the knowledge and skills you need to make the biological dream come true are right over there. Which brings us over to door number 1. This is the door you need to go through if you want to continue on your journey with me towards the biological dream. You must understand that one of the major features behind door number 1 is learning the skills that will take you to your biological dream. For this door takes you to the University of Life. You see, in this school, you will learn the skills that go along with the biological dream. You will also unlearn the skills that ran counter to that impulse that you learned in your traditional family. This is the process, and there are tools and courses available for such learning. But you must start with some awareness that what you are doing isn't working and that something must be learned. You see, Alfred continued with enthusiasm, there are 2 attributes necessary for you to proceed through door number 1. The first is panic, and that is why you are here, isn't it? That is why you got to this world in the first place. You have unknowingly realized in your life that the biological dream is not being reached. The second commitment, now that you know you are committed to walking this path, the path that will lead you there. The wind was blowing as the leaves and forest debris whipped up around us. The cold breezes blew into the frenzy as I stood there holding the collar of my jacket tight against the skin of my open neck. Are you getting excited yet? Alfred shouted. Yes, I yelled over the wind. You see, the turtle continued, not only does the biological dream and a good relationship not come automatically, it comes only after a lot of learning. But what about door number 2, I thought to myself. What happened to Bill Kaywood when he went through that middle door? What happens to all those people that choose door number 2? There are a lot of them, remember? Like 95% of all the couples out there? all the ones that choose to just stick it out? I looked at Alfred and asked him. Hope that you would ask me that, the turtle said. It's important to this journey that you are 100% committed to your choice of door number 1. To make that commitment that much stronger, I would like to show you what is behind door number 2. You know all about door number 3, the divorce door, and you know all about door number 1, which takes us to the quest for the knowledge that leads to vintage love in the biological dream. But what happens to all those folks who didn't find either? Where do all the couples end up who just stick it out in the power struggle behind door number 2? Well, it's very sad because door number 2 is the choice of couples that have given up on the dream. That wonderful impulse to achieve a whole life slips away from them, and they accept a relationship to some degree that is colorless, painful, and unfulfilling. They accept the rules of the tormented home-style relationship, and they live forever with fleeing, fighting, freezing, and submitting as part of their realized reality in everyday life. Some are worse off than others, but none are achieving the highest potential in their lives. Many times they limit their fighting to just below the legal limit. Causing bruises on each other is illegal in your world, so behind door number 2 are all kinds of fighting up close to bruises. They might limit their feeling to just below the divorce level. They get away from each other in thousands of different ways in order to make the loneliness and fear durable. They increase their use of freezing and pretending that nothing is going on and submitting, and of course, their resentment builds. Finally, they silently grieve the loss of their dreams and counsel others that true love is a fake. Now, it's not a very pleasant place to end up, but most of the couples that choose door number 2 do end up there. In fact, most marriages and long-time relationships that last beyond 2 years are there right now. The quest for the biological dream starts with the knowledge that there is something else, and it comes on with the development of a set of skills that you will see and learn as we move through the world on the other side of door number 1, as I take you through and on to the University of Life. With the knowledge gained by going on the journey through what is beyond door number 1, you can take on any relationship. Your journey towards vintage love represents an incredible promise that is really the only way to actualize the biological dream, but it's also the one that requires the most work. But how wonderful is the quest, the journey to achieve it. The turtle and I then walked towards door number 1. The door shined and seemed to come alive as we rose from the rocks where we were sitting. It looked alive, glowing with all the color I saw in my biological dream. It seemed to be breathing and actually getting excited as we walked closer. It was like a puppy so happy to see that we had chosen to come its way. As we walked close, it started to open, and a stream of fresh, warm air came streaming from the other side. A powerful, full wind of change pelted me in the face as I walked through the opening entry. As we ventured through the door, it became clear that this was the right choice for me. Inside, I felt a renewed hope in the future, a realization that came over me that I had finally found a plan, a method to get meaning back into my life. The air was calm and steady, and I could see a sunny glow coming from the other side of the wide, clear tunnel that welcomed me forward. We exited through the other side in moments. What seemed like a long tunnel was replaced by a short, comfortable walk that led to a bright, sunny day on the other side of the mountain. It was warm there, and I could see all the way down far into the wide green valley. Clearly, my world had just opened up considerably. As we walked, we came across an outcropping of trees and decided to take a rest. I opened my jacket and brushed off the coldness of that chilly world that we had just come from. Here on the other side of door number 1, it was bright. There seemed to be more colors here, and the air was clear, crisp, and pleasant to breathe in. "Have a seat here on the rock," Alfred said to me. As I gazed at the grass and flowers there on the ground, I saw my old house again. There it was, the brick split-level house from my neighborhood, my old childhood, that I had grown up in, just sitting there on the ground in front of me. My rope swing tree was there as well, along with the picnic table my dad had bought at that garage sale that time, and all these things I had forgotten about, all this little stuff from my life that I had long ago released from my conscious. Looking closer, I could see people, familiar faces it seemed, looking at me from inside the little house, peering out of the windows as if to greet an old friend. "I have some people that I would like you to meet," the turtle said with a smile. Then, out from behind the doors and gates of that little brick house popped a small group of miniature people. They just walked out and came right up to me. They were no taller than a new pencil, very small indeed, and they just looked up at me with big wide eyes full of amazement, clearly curious as to what I looked like. They reached out and touched my clothes and talked among themselves as in faint but recognizable soft voices. "Who are these people?" I asked the turtle. "These are your imagos." "My imagos? I don't have any imagos. What's an imago?" All the time these little people, these imagos as Alfred referred to them, were running up and down my leg. One would disappear into my sleeve. The others just stood by laughing, crying, and just going on and on. They were wild and happy it seemed to be around me for some reason. "Yes, you have imagos all right, and here they are," Alfred said to me again with authority. "So what the hell's an imago?" "Well, in this world, here beyond door number 1, the first people you need to meet and get to understand are your imagos. These strange little people look familiar to you, don't they?" "Yes," I replied, "they do look a little familiar, each one of them. That one looks like my mom, and that one looks like my father, and they act like them too. My dad always did that thing with my mom whenever he got excited. I recognize that." "Yes," Alfred said, "there seems to be a familiarity with something you have grown accustomed to, isn't there? These little people, figurines really, that lurk in your conscious thoughts. Do they remind you of your family? Do they remind you of your success of having survived your childhood alive? Think about that." Then, all in one motion, the little flock of tiny people ran up my sleeve and disappeared behind the collar of my jacket. It felt like they actually ran inside my back, vanishing inside of me. It was very creepy, but then again, a lot of things have been creepy here in this strange world with this turtle by my side. Alfred was a comforting presence, though, and he seemed to know everything that was going on, so I trusted him. I felt safe. He reached over, pulled his rock a little closer, and said, "It's okay. Let me try to clear this up for you. This imago, is a powerful aspect of your inner mind, and one that is unique to the troubles that couples have in human relationships." "Let me repeat that," he said. This imago, is a powerful aspect of your inner mind, and one that is unique to the troubles that couples have in human relationships." So up until now, you have been talking in generalities about the issues and concepts that affect all humans in their search for an enduring partnership. I have also not quite told the whole story of why you, as a human, choose the partners you choose. Well, here it is. The turtle then rose. "Come, walk this way." As we continued our walk down the path, the turtle continued. "True to human culture, most humans enter the relationship dance. You present yourselves, wait to fall in love, and then bond. It's a great ritual, one that a turtle who studies the human mind finds very interesting. I always wondered what makes humans fall in love with a particular person. What makes you pick a particular person out of a crowd of thousands and say, 'That's the one'? Well, after much work on my part, I have come to the understanding this thing you humans have inside all of you is called the imago. This is a fundamental part of the University of Life, and understanding this is a basic stepping stone up the pathway towards the biological dream." I could see far into the horizon now. The sun rose high in a deep blue sky. Hillsides filled with tall leafy trees rolled out before me. As the high mountain I descended flowed out into a vast green valley far below. I opened my jacket fully to capture the comforting sun and steadily walked along with the turtle speaking by my side. The turtle continued. "The concept goes like this. Through the process of growing up, a human child will, during the ages of 3 to 7, develop an internally visualized help picture of their caretakers. Now, these caretakers are the people in their lives that, at that time, that take care of them. Usually it's a mom and a dad. It could be a brother or a sister or an aunt. But it's a picture of who they are, what they do. It's an image that is created inside that they keep with them, and they are safe. Now, apparently this is done as the human child experiences more and more separation from them as well. In terms of the human brain, this is a cortical function to deal with the distress that the mammal brain feels whenever you get separated. It's like this. If you carry a picture in your cortex of your caretakers, then you never leave them. Now this seems to be what is going on. The picture is called the imago, and it contains many details of a person's caretakers. It contains their looks, gestures, behaviors, attitudes, all the aspects of them, and it doesn't matter if they were enjoyable or distressing. You carry them all. This imago endures throughout your life. Your imagos, the ones that just ran up your sleeve, you didn't just meet them. They have always been there. They have lived inside you since you were just a little baby, and they are unique only to you. Wow, I said out loud. So these little people that live in my mind, my imagos as you call them, they have always been with me? But how do they affect me? How do they affect who I may choose as a romantic partner? I asked Alfred. So you would like to know how they affect the people you choose? Well, I will tell you. The turtle then scratched his worn leather shell, repositioned himself on the rock, and continued. Let's look at what happens when you go out on the town looking for a mate. Humans are so interesting when it comes to this mating ritual. Turtles do it quite differently. We don't go into nightclubs or join groups of any kind and all that. But you humans have a very interesting set of activities you put in motion to find the right mate. And you hold these quite dear. You go through a lot of effort. Let me further explain what is actually going on here. As humans, you all have what I refer to as a reptilian brain and a mammalian brain. Now, these concepts I will cover later in our journey in more detail. But for now, just understand that these parts of your brain are there and that they are in charge of all emotions. These parts of your brain also control the process of falling in love. It is primarily a chemical and emotional situation. The process works this way. The reptilian brain is intensely neophobic. That means that it fears the new. Out on the town, you run into many people whom you have never seen before. Your reptilian brain is tense. It's a little afraid of all this new information being thrown at it. At the same time, your mammalian brain is looking for connection. Remember, it's at a higher level. It understands the need for connection, for reliable membership. It knows that this is a requirement for survival. When you run into someone who seems familiar, someone who looks, acts, and has gestures similar to those imago people inside you, a wonderful thing starts to happen. These two parts of your brain start to work together. Your reptilian brain relaxes because it sees something familiar, and your mammalian brain starts to join up. As this unconscious familiarity increases, the powerful PEA chemistry and the biological dream begin to operate, and bingo, you have two humans that are falling in love. When you humans are looking, you are looking. You see another person through a crowd of strangers, and should this person show similar signs that you become interested. And remember, those signs are the result of their reptilian and mammal brains discovering the same familiarity in you. They will display signals that appear receptive to you and your mammal brain, and the process accelerate. More chemistry is secured and more biological dreams are generated. You really become enthralled in the process, and you are triggered by the presence of this other person. Now, a powerful added kick is that when this happens, you humans seem to be in the presence of your caretakers, while at the same time in the presence of people who use biological dream skills, which your parents did not. Now, this person standing in front of you at this local dance that you have just met is a person who is familiar to you. It is also a person who seems safe, reliable, freeing, understanding, and caring of the real you. I, as a turtle, get this feeling by simply climbing under a rock. But you humans are much more complicated. This seems to be the goal of every human being. This seems to temporarily be the experience of vintage love that all of you are seeking. No wonder this mating process is so popular. It creates temporarily the phenomenon of the biological dream realized. Now, as these two partners move off into the sunset, they both carry with them a yet-to-be-revealed, frightening set of traditional family-style skills. All humans carry the home-style skills learned from their parents. Remember, they all just ran up your sleeve and disappeared into your back. They're all in there, walking the path with you every day. The kicker is that all these skills are very familiar to your partner. You see, that is why they picked you. These skills are very familiar in the good ways, but they are also very familiar in the bad ways as well. The bad ways, I said back. I thought this was all about feeling love and the perfect partner. What do you mean bad ways? Alfred tipped his head and rose his leather-like eyebrow. Let me explain it this way, he said. A human child has two great impulses throughout childhood. The first is just to survive. Understand that these little innocent creatures are delivered into the world via their mother's birth canal. They are hoisted up, pat on the rump, and put off in a little plastic box where they wait for the next step. Their main concern is just to survive. This inherent need is carried out through life. And as these little creatures grow, they quickly figure out what works in this process and what doesn't. These skills are the paramount importance to them. These are important skills, and they learn them from being with their caretakers. And the second great impulse, I asked? The second, Alfred continued, is the impulse to become whole. And while the first impulse to survive always wins out if there is a debate, the impulse to become whole moves all human children along as well. You see, childhood is about children, not about parents. Looking from the point of view of a human child, negative attributes of caretakers are just as important and powerful as good ones. And as we have learned, traditional home-style skills are full of negative attributes. These negative attributes do not match well with the fulfillment of the biological dream. But at the same time, these negative attributes are attributes that a child needs to understand and use as they go through the process of growing up, of becoming whole. It's like this. Buried in every negative attribute of your imago is an unfulfilled condition for aliveness you lived through as a child. This unfulfilled condition directly correlates to the future biological dream deficit you will face in your quest to become whole, which is required to complete the process of becoming a mature adult in your human world. This unmet need experienced by the human child will eventually surface as an undeveloped adult skill, and more or less is specifically related to every human's quest for maturity. The fantastic part is that your partner, the one you picked out in the crowd at the club or were drawn to across the crowded bus station, carries with them many of these negative attributes. What a magnificent situation, Alfred exclaimed as he rubbed his little stubby turtle hands together. Because of the imago selection process, each of you humans are matched with the perfect lab partner for the University of Life. Your behaviors will uniquely and accurately stir up each of your frustrations from childhood. Nature is full of these magnificent clevernesses. I see them all the time. But for humans, it is unique because of the high level of your brains have achieved. You see, for humans, the goal is maturity and self-actualization. This self-actualization feature doesn't exist anywhere else in the human world. Just you humans have it. It's very interesting. It would be better, of course, if you could all you do it a little bit better. As humans, you just want to survive and become whole, right? You want to achieve the promise of the biological dream. You want to raise healthy, whole children by doing less damage to them. Maybe my logic here can help. But there is a lot more to it, and Alfred continued. You see, all partner selection is unknown to the romantic human couple as they first meet and proceed into a romantic relationship. All they know is that they feel really good together. Now, that's great, but the part they don't know will surely catch up to them. This is the power struggle I've talked about. It's the life that leads up to the three doors that exist in its fulfillment behind door number 2. You see, the power struggle starts when data begins to flow, particularly data that shows the inherent hidden negative attributes of your romantic partner. The reaction is often quick and profound, as this is not the first time the person has seen these negative attributes. You see, they grew up with them. This is just the first time they saw them in this person. Unfortunately, this data is terminal. Once you have it, you can't get rid of it. Once your partner blows up at you when you disagree, you'll never forget it. Once they walk out of the house not telling you if they're coming back during a disagreement, you'll never forget it. And as your partner reminds you more and more that you are your past frustrations, you will rely more and more on the home style skills to recover the blush of falling in love. The process is like a barb and a hook. The more you struggle, the more you slide down from the highs of romantic love, and the closer you get to making a choice at door number 1, door number 2, or door number 3. You see, one of these doors inevitably is where all human couples end up once they cross the abyss of romantic love. Now, Alfred looked at me with an inquisitive eye. So you have come through door number 1, he said. Congratulations, but this is just the starting point. The path ahead is right here, but it needs to be walked. Are you still coming with me? Now, those who make it down the path find themselves closer to mature living. Humans who go there, and this is more a community than a simple two-person partnership, know the skills of the biological dream and have them as habits. People down the path encourage each other to fulfill their life's purpose. People here are nurturing to others as a matter of course. Good parenting skills live here and are natural. Safety, reliable membership, autonomy, diversity, and purpose are the norms, not the exceptions, down this path. I ask you once again, are you coming? With that, Alfred finally folded up his map of relationship he had been holding at his side all this time, and neatly tucked it away behind his shell. I could tell he uses it quite a lot and wanted to keep it neat and tidy for the next time he would need it. For me, well, I was headed down the path with him. I was headed on to the University of Life with the turtle, for sure. Remember, this is a training period, Alfred explained. You can take as much time as you need. You can walk this path towards your biological dream anytime and anywhere, and while it helps to have a partner for it, you don't need a partner to walk this path. Now, there are many Imago partners out there, and if you have not found one yet, you surely will if you look. You, my friend, might have come through the door alone, but your partner, wherever they are, will be sure to follow. The lessons you will learn are universal. They will help you achieve your goals across many fronts in your life, and the relationship with your Imago partner, while being the most important relationship in your quest, is by no means the only one. Now, the turtle continued to walk as we walked towards the next bend in the path. We were still high in the mountains, high above the distant valley floor below. I could feel the steady breeze flow through the hills. I could feel the crisp air move in and out of my lungs as Alfred walked aggressively. And he continued, another important part of what you'll see on the path involves completing your own childhood. This involves restarting growth tasks that you had put down as a kid, ones that you had to put on hold because survival was more critical at the time. Things like self-esteem. Now, I must tell you, to get the most out of this part of your journey, the part about growing up, it is best to do while working with an Imago partner in a relationship. I want to be clear at this point. No other person puts you right in the middle of the laboratory of life quite so well. They will bring front and center all the uncompleted lessons in your life, and believe me, it's gold. Alfred then looked at me as we walked side by side. There are two ways one can go. There is the short way, and there is the long way. The short way involves going through door number one. Door number one, and pushing down the path to the University of Life. The challenge is that you got to take your partner, the one you're having all that trouble, along with you. The long way, he continued, is to head to door number 3, the divorce door, and swing around to start again. This is the choice for many people in your human world, and while it may be fun going through the rituals of romantic love again, you will always end up back at the 3 doors where you will need to make a choice. And the power struggle that lurks behind door number 2, what a painful period that can be. Still, humans seem to learn best from pain, so learn as much as you can if you find yourself in there. This seems to be a best time used to build up motivation to proceed through the right door, the one that leads you down the path to your biological dream. Now, we had walked in silence, me in retrospect, the turtle gazing at the worms he was seeing along the path, and I looked up at Alfred and I asked, so, do you tell people in the romantic stage all about this stuff? He looked at me. No, I don't do that. That would be quite cruel and would not be very productive anyway. When people see me who are in the romantic stage, I usually just send them away. I tell them to have a great day. Feeling that good is not conducive to learning. A lizard friend of mine once told me that pain helps humans grow. Feeling good helps them mold. So why stop them? There's plenty of time to learn, and it's best to learn when you need it most. I think it is very important for humans to really feel romantic love, to live unencumbered by any emotion that tells you otherwise. Your society is going to tell you that it is unimportant. People that live behind door number 2 are going to tell you that it doesn't even exist. But I, as a turtle, seeing all of you from a distance, know that it does exist, and that you need to feel the joy that romantic love has to offer. Feel the power. It's a straight glimpse of what awaits all of you in the biological dream. It's what you all came here for. Your world is funny. It will try to shame you, but don't listen. What human lovers are experiencing is a wonder. and they should hold it in their hearts like the gentle breezes of summer. They are experiencing a foretaste of vintage love. Remember it and treasure it and use it to help make your choices in the coldness of the winter of the power struggle. But Alfred, I responded, all that pain in the power struggle, as you call it, it just seems to lead to separation and divorce for so many couples. Well, Alfred continued in somber, that is true. Divorce during this process can be very painful, but it is the preferred choice of so many people. You see, many do not make it through door number 1, and they take door number 3 as a way to get away from the pain. But even after divorce, there is hope. Once through the pain of separation, a great sense of relief can come. The wonder of autonomy and freedom from the pain of the power struggle is a great balm of healing, and there are many Imago matches available to everyone. They are out there if you look hard enough. Remember, the human requirement for reliable membership of belonging, this will lead you on, and you will go out and be pulled into romantic love once again. The biological dream will demand it of you. But if you find yourself there, in that space between relationships, take a breather as long as you're there. The appearance of the emotion of loneliness will be your clue and that the biological dream is still working and in need of your attention. Remember, humans are not designed to live alone. I recommend all humans to go to the map of relationships, like the one we have here. Put a mark on the spot where you think you are and start walking. You all started your walk in both homestyle, traditional family relationships, and in the biological dream. Since then, you've wandered along to where you are now. Where do you want to be? Where do you want to go? What does the map suggest, or where does the map suggest you have to go?